Hello my friend, in this video I'm going to show you how I got my song Lo-Fi Nights to hit 1.7 million streams on Spotify. With that said, let's just jump right into this. I'm going to disappear for a second and share my screen, so let's go ahead and do that. So right here is the tune that I am going to be going over today. The song is called Lo-Fi Nights. At the time of making this little screenshot, you can see that it has hit 1.7 million streams or so, which is pretty fantastic. This is the kind of first song that really popped off for me and set me on the track to hit like the 4 million streams that I'm at now. So clearly this is a big part of it, and we'll dive into kind of everything that I did to hit this. Mostly it was Facebook ads. There was also a couple of other things like kind of tracking it and all sorts of stuff. Let's just get right into it. So here's kind of an overview of how the track did, particularly in the first 28 days. So usually I'll track tunes for the first like 28 days of its release. That's when it could be on release radar and really get pushed out to the algorithm and all that stuff. So that's usually what I'll focus my attention on. So within the first 28 days, the ad spend, which was 100% Facebook ads, of course I was sending to Instagram as well, but I spent $345 and some change in Canadian dollars. So definitely want to mention that it was in Canadian dollars because our dollar sucks a little bit, but so that's that. Within the first 28 days, this song hit about over 200,000 streams, which I think is pretty good, and it got me about 200 new followers within the first 28 days. In addition to that, there was 790 saves. It was added to 861 playlists, and the big thing was that it got on 7 editorial playlists. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this to kind of show you what I did and how I was able to kind of achieve this. So one thing that I like to do is I like to track my results using like a stream tracker. Link in the description to a checklist that I have. It's the 7 steps for how I release stuff on Spotify. One of the steps goes over tracking and includes a template that you could copy and use in your own music as well. But for now, let's dive into this actual tracker for this individual song. So right here is the data. I'm tracking quite a few different things, from ad spend over to how the ads were performing, as well as the listeners each day, saves, and then calculating the save rate and the listen rate, the amount of playlists, as well as kind of the distribution of where the streams were coming from, so the profile or playlist, editorial, those kind of things, as well as the amount of followers, and then notes of what I was kind of changing on the ads kind of side. So if I saw something work, I can go back in time and see, oh, I made this change and that worked, or I made this change and it didn't work, do that again, or don't do that again. So this is kind of a unique one because I actually followed this song for more than 28 days. As you can see here, this was like the first really big song to pop off, so I decided I wanted to kind of see how it does, like how it was going to perform over time, so that I could kind of collect all this data and see how things perform. And I believe I did it for I did it for a while. I was collecting streams for collecting this data for about 116 days. So I was quite dedicated to make sure that, I was able to collect the data and be able to look back on things and see what worked and didn't work. I think you can see here, following this spreadsheet, it was on the 11th day that things really popped off. So before that, I was getting about, not that many streams. If you look at it, it's like 4, 16, 17, 10, getting a little bit higher in the second week there, 20, 30, 25 kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden 5,000, 10,000, 8,000, 7,000, 10,000, 10,000, I think the highest it ever did was about 12,000 streams in one day. Regardless, pretty fantastic. Very happy about that. And I think one interesting thing to look at for this song in particular is over on the kind of save rates and listen rates and all that kind of stuff. As you can see, in the first couple of weeks when it wasn't added to an editorial, the save rate was quite high. We're looking at 18% once it was actually calculated, up to as much as 73%. With a repeat listen rate hovering around 2, dropping down to like 1.8. So either like pretty good numbers, I would say, particularly something like this. Like when this was hitting 65, 70, the highest it did was 80%. So what this means is for every listener that was listening to the song, basically there was an 80% chance that they would actually save it to their own playlist. And I do believe very strongly that this is something that the algorithm is looking for. So if the algorithm sees, for example, that you released a song and you're bringing new people to the platform and 80% of the people are saving it to their own playlist, that shows Spotify that, sorry, burping a little bit, that shows Spotify that that's clearly a good song and that they should push it out to people similar to that. In addition to that, obviously, it's a good way to kind of catch the attention of the editors. They're also able to see that data. And then you can see it was then, once it was added to the playlist, like this, I think is very interesting. You can see that the date it was added, the save rate dropped from like in the 60s to 1.8. And then over time, it basically dropped to less than 1% save rate. And then obviously over time, it seems like it went up throughout the months. Still very low save rates, at least for what I'm used to. And by the time I was tracking it, it was barely almost hitting 2%. But you can see also the listen rate was going up quite a bit too. And quite a bit of playlist ads in the 2000s, which is kind of great. And then also you can see from the kind of distribution of where the streams were coming from. Started off all profile because I send the traffic to the profile. It's easier to get follows, basically, is the rationale for why I do that. And then all of a sudden you can see that, 97% of the streams were coming from editorial playlists. It got to a point where I barely was tracking that number because it was clearly in the 90s. It was all the editorial playlists fucking getting the song streams. So that is the breakdown of the individual stats that I track. Moving on from that, the next thing I want to kind of get into is the actual Spotify for Artists dashboard of this song. So this is kind of an overview of the first 28 days, and when I click into this, we'll actually dive into the dashboard and we can have a look at how it's performed more long term. But in the first month, you could see 2,000 streams, and this is kind of more of a visual representation of it compared to, once it started hitting 5 and 10,000 streams per day, it literally almost looks like this was nothing, but this was like 10, 20 streams or whatever it was in the first couple of weeks. So let's take a look now in the Spotify for Artist dashboard. So this is the dashboard for my song Lo-Fi Nights. So let's have a look at some different time zones. So I think this is going to be very interesting. So now this song is no longer, I don't even think it's in any editorial playlist really, but let's have a look at how it's been doing in the last 7 days now. So you can see now in the last 7 days, it's not even getting the amount of streams it used to be getting in one day. So this kind of shows like the power of editorial playlists, but also I think it shows like why you shouldn't make any long-term planning, life planning if you get on an editorial playlist, because it'll go away eventually. And I think it's fantastic if it even lasts longer than a couple of weeks, really. So let's see the last 12 months for this song. So this really kind of shows how the song is performed. So you can see over here we're hitting 12,000 streams, dropping down to 8 or so on weekends. Usually I notice it drops on Fridays and Saturdays for some reason. And then it dropped down to like 10, then it started dropping down to 7,000 streams per day, and then for the longest time, it's been doing about 1,000 streams per day, and that seems to be kind of where it's kind of maintaining at this point in time. So let's go to the last 12 months. Okay, I think you can only check only a 12-month period, but I think this shows kind of how awesome that playlists can be, but also that, it's going to drop eventually, and I think it's definitely important to pay attention to that. So let's move back on to the kind of little presentation here we got going on and move to the next slide. So the next slide we're going to be going into is the kind of main tactic that I used to get this amount of streams, which was running Facebook ads. And this is going to be a little bit different from the other single breakdowns that I did because I did something quite specific. So you can see here that for the kind of direct to profile campaign that I was doing, where I was running an ad, sending it to a landing page, and then sending it straight to the Spotify profile, I was only running that for maybe a couple weeks, and I only spent $128 Canadian. The cost per result was 52 cents per result in Canadian as well. And we'll get into it in a bit, but the reason I did this is because I ended up switching to a playlist running strategy, which I'll of course show you in a moment as well. So let's go ahead and click into this and have a look at the actual ad campaign. So I had a couple of different campaigns that I was running and testing. Let's just jump into the best performing one, which would seem to be, let's have a look here. I really didn't spend too much money on any of these, to be honest, so I think it looks like the lookalike audience. I had a top 3 performing audiences that I was running, but I only ran it for $7. It's not really worth diving into, so let's have a look at the lookalike here. And what we'll do actually is first let's have a look at the ad set. So running conversion ads as normal, and then going a little bit deeper into the ads. I was running, I don't need your recommendations, Facebook. an Instagram lookalike audience, a 25% video view lookalike audience, and a web lookalike audience. So let's have a look at just one of these. You can see that very small budgets, $1.35 Canadian, just using the one lookalike and running to these countries right here. Here are the countries that I'm sending them to. Feel free to screenshot this and copy it if you'd like to. I usually keep the targeting wide open, so 18 to 65 plus, all genders, and then I will run the lookalike and kind of drill it down a little bit more by Spotify, making sure that it is hitting people that are interested in Spotify. So let's have a look at the actual ads that I was running. So you can see it's kind of going here. Basically, I would just run some kind of, basically using the artwork and having some animation to show, like, kind of catch attention and all that kind of stuff. When I was first starting out, I did quite a bit of this where I was running it to specific artists, and I would include in the ad saying, like, for fans of this, and I found that to be quite effective. Moving on, I don't do that as much anymore, but you can see this is basically what the ad looks like across all these. Each one is just has a different snippet of the song, and that way the Facebook algorithm can kind of optimize and see which one performs the best over time. And that really is that on the Facebook ad side for now. We will come back to that in a second, but next is more on the social media side. So I think this does have a bit of a part to play with it because it brings people back to your music, and this is actually like a little bit of how you can kind of build an actual fan base. The main thing that I'll do is I have these little spinning videos over here with different segments of the song, very similar to the ads, but just formatted for Instagram, basically. And I'll post those maybe once per week. Then I'll usually have some kind of, I like to have some kind of like performance video that I'll add in. It's just a little bit more interesting. Sometimes my dumb face will come in there. I call those face vids, and I'll be like, oh, new song, that kind of thing. Don't do it all the time, but I'll try to. Usually I'll do a tease before as well. And then after that, the main thing that I'll do, this is over here on the left, is a little bit deeper into the campaign. So this is one of the editorial playlists that this song got added to. And basically, if I get added to any cool playlist, like as you can see here and here, I'll just take the screenshot and post about it and kind of like celebrate it. And I think one actually funny thing I did, and I think I grabbed it, I've always wanted to do this, like the over 9,000 meme, like take my song and then put it over Goku as he's powering up, and then it's like, oh, it's over 9,000. Fucking the CEO of Spotify, they're freaking out. Loved this one. But yeah, that's really the social media stuff. Nothing too crazy on that front. I think it's important to, keep it up in some way, and make it not too, don't kill yourself with social media. It doesn't really, it's not, it helps, but it's not, the end all be all of everything. So moving back on to this tune, another thing that I want to go into is the playlist that I created. So what I chose to do once this song popped off was I was running the ads directly to the to my profile at first, and then once it was really popping off and it was like I was calculating, it's like, okay, I'm gonna actually be making some pretty nice money off of this, I decided to divert the funds over to a playlist. So basically I kept the exact same ad running, but instead of sending it to a landing page where it's going to direct them to the profile, it's a landing page where it directs them to the this playlist right here. And I think what's nice about this in particular is, as you can see, now there's 2,940 followers on this playlist after running ads to it for about almost a year now. And you can see here, I think this might be all time, or maybe the last 12 months or something like this. But you can see I have 10 of my own songs on this playlist now, and I've had almost 30,000 streams from this playlist. So that's kind of like the power of building your own playlist. It's something that I think could be exciting, particularly because some of these songs on here, obviously you can drop your own tunes, which is one big benefit. Another big benefit is you can grab songs of artists that you like and put your music near it, so it kind of creates that relation in the Spotify algorithm's eyes, as well as then you could also, once you're at 1,000 followers, you can add your music to Submit Hub and Playlist Push and those kind of things, and actually make a bit of money from considering songs to add to the playlist, which I think is pretty fantastic. Digging a bit deeper into the playlist side over here, let's see if we can see anything. Then right here you can see this is how it's been performing. It's hit 30,000 now after I've taken that screenshot. And I also have another one that I'm running as well that got me 14,000 streams of my own music. So definitely it's pretty powerful to, make your own playlist and that kind of thing. A couple of different reasons there. Here's a deeper look into the Facebook ads campaign that I was running for the playlist. So as you saw from the previous Facebook ads that I was running for this song. It was only a couple of weeks that I was running, a couple $100 that I ran that campaign for directly to the song, or my profile rather, and then I switched over to this playlist campaign, and this one I'm still running now because it's doing well and it's still bringing in new people and all that kind of great stuff. And I've spent considerably more on this. Obviously, I've been running it for almost a year now, but I spent about $1,500 Canadian. You can see the cost per result is hovering, but it's as low as 26 cents Canadian and 35 cents Canadian. We can dive a little bit deeper into this right now. So this is another breakdown of it. Let's dive into, I guess, the one that I'm actually running. So right now, you can see I did a couple different tests trying to figure out what works. And then now what I'm running is this one where it's the 95% video views of the actual ad, like that Lo-Fi Nights video ad. And anyone who's visited the landing page for that particular ad as well. In addition to that, I've included the countries Mexico and Russia to kind of drive the cost down even further now that I've kind of gotten what I wanted out of this campaign, and it just makes the cost a lot cheaper, I would say, for sure. But obviously there are sacrifices that are made from that. And then in the ad, I am running just two posts. So there's this one right here, which is very similar to what I showed before, and also this one, which I thought was really cool. It's the song kind of with this little cut of like Obi-Wan Kenobi where he was like a blooper thing or whatever. I love this so much. But yeah, a little bit deeper dive into the ad actually now that we're here, and I kind of forgot to show you earlier. There's no headlines, there's no text, it just says listen now, and it's going to a smart link that I've built myself, and I think it'll be worthwhile to kind of open that up and show you what this looks like. So this is something that I built myself on WordPress with a premium drag and drop editor called Thrive Architect. This is all it looks like, clearly inspired by kind of like those tone dead ones, but obviously there's a lot more that can be done in this instance. You can kind of make it exactly how you want it to. So I also included a free sample pack, so I am collecting some emails and giving away some of the samples that are in this song, which is kind of cool. And this is really all it looks like. This is kind of the key to the smart music links thing, for me at least, that's gotten me over 4 million streams. And I guess I'd be remiss to not mention that the checklist that I mentioned earlier in this video, also in that checklist, one of the steps is preparing your links for the release, of course. And within that, I have a completely free course where I dive a little bit more into the theory behind how you can make these smart links work regardless of which one you're using, toned in, hyped in, all that kind of stuff. But also a step-by-step of how you can get set up with WordPress and creating your own, as well as like the actual templates if you want to exactly use, like for example, this one is in there and you can just drag and drop them and get set up with them right away. Completely free course. It is also built into that checklist, which I think is pretty cool. And then moving on, I think that might be it, kind of diving into this song. I think that's kind of it, yeah. I think one thing that I wouldn't mind showing you real quick, actually, because I did almost forget that this one is like such a huge editorial beast. So maybe we can try to find out a little bit more of how this song performed in terms of editorial. So we're going to go into the music section. We're going to go to Lo-Fi Nights. And what we can look at now is, let's have a look here. Yeah, we can do the playlist and have a look at that in the last, let's say, since 2015. This is perfect. So this will give a good idea of exactly how this works. So since starting this song has actually been added to 5,518 playlists, which is awesome. That's very, very cool. You can see here that the top performing tune, or the top performing playlists, were these two right here. So Lounge, Soft House, and House Focus, with about 600,000 streams coming from each of them, which is ideal as heck. And you can see here, here's all the different editorial playlists that it's been added to. Just to give you an overview: Lounge, Soft House, House Focus, Coffee Beats, Electronic Focus, Poolside Lounge, Pilates Lounge, and then also this Ode to Pilates one are the main Spotify ones. To give you an idea of like the power of these things, so if we click into one of these playlists, this one in particular, Lounge Soft House, 1.6 million followers on this playlist. So this is something where if you get added to something like this, it's gonna be bopping, right? But you can't always expect to get added to something this juicy, unfortunately. You can see even here some of these other ones, like Poolside Lounge, 39,000 streams. Like, it's good. Obviously, it's very nice, and I'm definitely appreciative. But you can see some of these, like, it's a Spotify editorial playlist, and it's only 13,000 streams. Like, my own playlist has got me, well, half of it. But you can see, or you can see here, like the Discover Weekly algorithmic one. is actually more than the editorial. The radio one, the daily mix one, these are both doing better than this specific Spotify editorial playlist. So algorithmic playlists are definitely the way to go, I would say, because you can't always predict the editorial playlist. It's your kind of almost like luck of the draw in a way, but you can somewhat, game getting on the algorithmic playlists. And I guess I should mention, link above for a Spotify algorithm hack kind of overview of how that works. But yeah, this is all the playlists that it's been added to. Most of them, by far, of that 5,000 is actual individual people, as opposed to like reaching out on Submit Hub and Playlist Hub. I don't do that kind of thing. I just run ads, and then as the ads reach people add it to their own playlists, and it kind of spreads. And you can see like this is my kind of favorite thing. This is real people adding it to their own playlist. Like that's kind of the coolest thing. Yeah, so I think with that out of the way, that's kind of an overview of how I got that song. Main thing was Facebook ads, but I should definitely mention that a big part of that is I was releasing, and I'm still releasing, a song every single month. So my very well thought out belief of this is, if you can release a new song every single month and start, taking advantage of the Spotify algorithm, the release radar playlist, where the release radar could potentially boost your streams dramatically in the first 28 days. That's why I would say once a month, so that you can maximize your exposure to those playlists. Over time, you can be very consistent and be growing the amount of streams that you're getting, and basically give the Spotify editors no other, I guess, reason not to ignore you any longer. If you're being consistent, if you're showing some kind of growth, they're going to see these kind of things, and you're also just going to be pitching more because you're doing it on a monthly basis. So they'll have a higher chance of actually seeing what you're doing, and you might get added to something amazing like this. So I think that's a big part of it. It's obviously Facebook ads is fantastic. I'm actually not a huge fan of Facebook ads. They're a tool to be used, and that's how I see that. But I think the biggest thing is consistency. Releasing new music as much as you can in a smart way, and doing some effort to promote it and bring new people to the platform. That's how you can start triggering the algorithm and get the attention of editors and all that good stuff, and start seeing numbers like this. So hopefully you found this breakdown useful. Hopefully I didn't mutter and stumble or anything like that too much. If you did find it useful, make sure like and subscribe. But also, again, there is that checklist in the description below, which is the 7 steps that I followed to get to this point where I'm at now with 4 million streams. I followed it for this release here, and I follow it to this day because it just kind of streamlines things. In addition to that, each step can be unfurled to have kind of why that step is important and how you can achieve that step if you don't know how to, as well as links if you need some more information on that step. And then also there is that Smart Link course inside of that checklist as well. And there also is going to be a Facebook ads course built in. It might already be in there at the time of you watching this, so definitely check that out, because there's obviously a step where it's like, okay, set up your Facebook ads, and I wanted to include kind of a start to finish how to get set up with Facebook ads and get your first conversion campaign running. So that's all in there. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one, my friend. Have a good one.